Welcome to the Talking Shh podcast. That's right. We'll be talking about music, albums, live shows, bands we love, bands not so much. Again, we're talking shh. Join me, Scott Nokon, and Stephen James. Hey guys, we are back. This is Scott. That's Stephen. Stephen over there. This
Happy
is
New Year, everybody.
Talking shh. Yes. We're into the new year, into 2025. Hope you guys are having a good year so far. We are.
Absolutely.
You are, right? I answered for you, Stephen, but I just assumed, that things are well. So
Yes. Very well.
So it's been a good start of the year. Actually had my first trip yesterday, and then flew back this morning. Not far, so just one time zone over. 2 flights that, if you add them together, maybe worth 90 minutes total.
Yeah,
So
that's not
it's
bad.
like to get where I needed to get. There is you had to take a connection. There wasn't a nonstop option, but what are you going to do? But that's just how it is. But back, and I will be well caffeinated. So I can't promise, Stephen, if I won't have a momentary lapse of anything. But
You got to flow with the go.
we'll just do it. Yeah, that was hot. That's awesome when you drink a hot beverage in your throat. Then you got to
It'll
talk
wake
for
you
the
up.
next 90 minutes. So
Yes, it'll wake you up.
yeah. So tonight we thought we have some fun, because we always have fun.
Absolutely.
But go back to 50 years ago.
Wow.
So what were you doing 50 years ago on June 16th?
Playing
January.
drums,
See, I
probably.
could make it through January 16th. I'm fading fast. Come on. January 16th. I can't tell you. I couldn't even fathom a guess of what I was doing on January or June 16th,
Yeah.
1975. But what we will highlight, and I just wanted to pull up something on my phone as well, we will highlight albums that came out in 75 that in this year, 2025, are 50 years old.
So crazy.
So I'm going to run through a list, and this list is in no particular order, and then we're going to kind of dive into some details around some of them. We may purposely mention them by title and then never mention them again, Stephen. So we'll just kind of leave it up to our own device. So again, in no particular order, 9 albums that turned 50 in 2025.
Crazy.
Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic.
Yeah.
REO Speedwagon, This Time We Mean It. Black Sabbath, Sabotage. Led Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti. Kiss, Alive. Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare. Rush, Fly By Night. Deep Purple, I have it right here. Come
Check
Taste
this
the
out.
Band.
Let's see it.
No, I can't get my props. There we go.
Let's see it.
There we go. Here, where do I want to go there? There.
Cool.
Come Taste the Band, original pressing. It makes
Cool.
it printing, but that's not how it is. Here's Kiss Alive. This is our original pressing as well.
Double album.
Sabotage. I feel like William Shatner when he says sabotage, but this is Sabotage from Black Sabbath. This is not an original pressing, but I will tell you that's an original Music Plus sticker, which is an antique in itself, since there's no Music Pluses, and they haven't been 20 years,
Probably more than that.
maybe more, right? But let's see, what was this record? See, it's so old, the actual ink wore off, but probably $5.99 or something like that, but not even open. So I'm sure someone would want this.
Absolutely.
And not on the list, and again, this list is just an arbitrary list, and number 9, Scorpions in Trance. That's all the time we're going to give to them on that record. But Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run. This might
That
be
was
an
when he
original.
blew up.
Yeah, this might be an original pressing too. So
That's when he got huge.
yeah, it's because the tracks on here. Let's just hit on that really quick, since
Sure. Great
Come on, it's the
songs.
boss. Yeah.
I like Bruce.
So I love, so, and again, just the record. So, look at that guy, it obviously, and we've talked about records before, but I'm going to spend a little bit of time. See, it's actually a real record. Look at that. The vinyl.
Wow. No scratches.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. There is now. I just dropped it now.
Uh-oh.
But, inside, that's why I started buying records again. But even for the ones that we have, and this might not be displaying too clearly, but just as far as the idea, right, Stephen, you got the liner notes, you got the lyrics. Some of these were included some additional information inside. Let's see if this one did. No, just a original like white sleeve. But yeah, you just sit there, and definitely with Pink Floyd, which came out. One of their records came out in '75, right? Wish You Were Here, but you just sit with the headphones and just lean back in an easy chair, lazy boy, whatever, and just take it all in. That was like, that's definitely what one of my musical memories, and did it start when I was in '75? I was 5 years old. It probably didn't start then, but I'm sure by the time I was 10, you wanted to get the big headphones and just kind of take it all in. So yeah, the record, the album was something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Back in those days, it was headphones, and they probably weren't as cool as the ones we're wearing now. And I don't even know if these are cool, but they were.
I think they're cool. I like it. Yeah.
But yeah, the whole immersing when stereo came out, because you could hear it, especially with Pink Floyd, because they would spin it from left to right, and it had that kind of. I'm thinking more of Dark Side of the Moon, but Wish You Were Here is another great album. That not part of this list necessarily, but a great album, which I believe should have been in this list. Taking a few of the ones out that.
That was. See, so there's I grabbed this off of Twitter the other day. Mitch Lafon, who I follow, and let me just, since I mentioned his name, let me just tell you who he is. Mitch Lafon. So he's got a blue check. Music fan, old and new. Okay. At first I thought, was he like a writer? Was he a photographer? And he's not, but he's got, as a music fan, he's got 57,000 followers, and he did something. So let me Google him really quick as we talk through this, because that list wasn't just a de facto. These are the only 9 records, right? That was just something that he posted.
I have one that should definitely be in there. AC/DC High Voltage.
Yes. Okay, so he is. Yeah. Okay, I was right. He's still around. He's an American music journalist, best known for One-on-One with Mitch Lafon in Talking Metal Digital.
Cool.
And
Journey Cat album came out.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. So it's like I try to on Twitter or X. I still call it Twitter, but follow a lot of music. Some sports stuff. I try to mute everything else because it's like I'm going there, and I don't know if I spend an inordinate amount of time on that site, but of all the different, and Stephen, as we've done, and we did it in 24, we're doing it in 25. We'll bounce around some topics, but then we'll bring it all back in. But in that, I'll out of all these social media platforms, I'll probably spend the most of the time on Twitter, but not going deep diving, trying to stay away from any of the crazy stuff. So related to it, I saw that post, and so that post helped influence our topic tonight, which was great. So in that, so let's kind of run through a few more of these, and then we'll kind of just riff on it back and forth. How's that?
Sure.
So in '75, rock and metal genre had started to develop a little bit more. Before we got on air, I was talking to Stephen how on the radio show that I do weekly, No Consideration, I've done past episodes called In the Year of. So it could be 1984, focus on, thrash metal, metal hard rock. And I go, well, let me see if I can go back any further, get into the 70s. And let me bounce around with just some of the bands and the songs that are going to be on my 1975 playlist. You talked about AC/DC. And it's interesting with AC/DC because High Voltage was released in Australia and like New Zealand, but there wasn't an American release until later. And then it had different songs. So I was still pulling like It's a Long Way to the Top, If You Want to Rock and Roll. That's on the original Australian release in 75. And there was a separate conversation that we love to do on a future show is original singer, second singer, or a replacement, maybe a third singer. I don't know if Exodus would make that list, but they just went back to Rob Dukes. It was announced yesterday. That's his second time in the band, replacing Zetro Sosa, if you're a follower of Exodus. So they had Paul Bailoff, who then passed away. Then they had Zetro, then he left. Then Rob Dukes came on. Then Rob Dukes left, and then Zetro came back, and now Rob Dukes is back. So, it's like you got this back and forth. The conversation that has been had a few times is who's better,
Hey,
the original or the second AC/DC singer?
your camera went like this, so I only see the
That's
top of
right,
your
my
head.
screen.
Oh, is your
Yeah,
screen?
there it is. Yeah. So I had to be a professional, Stephen, and I used some of that like blue masking tape to hold it in place. That's what she said. And yeah, it obviously slipped. So
There you go. All right,
there, how's that?
perfect.
So who is the better's relative, but who's more popular? Bon Scott, Brian Johnson. I wasn't always a Bon Scott fan, and I've heard It's a Long Way to Rock, It's a Long Way to the Top, She's Got Balls, TNT, but that's all off that first record. It's like,
Right.
okay, those are bangers. Pretty good stuff. Aerosmith, No More, No More, awesome song. Alice Cooper, Escape, Black Sabbath, and talk about Symptom of the Universe that comes off
Yeah.
Sabotage.
Such a great song.
Deep Purple, Coming Home. That's Come Taste the Band. Again, I showed the record, and I'll bring it up again really quick. David Coverdale in the band. It was kind of hard to find some good songs. I'll admit that and good. Again, I'll say that I liked.
I think Glenn Hughes was playing bass in that band.
He
too.
was, yeah, and they did. But here's the thing. This is when they there was a departure after this record, and not surprising, many bands in that time frame were just high all the time and drinking all the time,
Yeah.
and that definitely shown in this record. And there were some songs that Glenn Hughes and David Coverdale would both sing on, like in the previous record. But there wasn't too much on this just because they weren't always available all at the same time. And they just kind of individually recorded their parts. So it's one of those things where what could have been and what ended up being is two entirely different stories just based on the...
There's also a lot of rumor that Richie Blackmore's a dick. And
Well, yeah,
he's difficult to work with.
And I think he was gone, but by this time.
Okay.
Yeah, but yes, it led up to that, and I think I don't know if you said a rumor, but I would say it's probably a fact.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, that he was so full of them. I mean, a great guitar player, but if you want to see a clone of Richie Blackmore, is Yngwie. Yngwie loved Richie, and if you watch them both play, if you put them side by side and watch them both play, they do the point at the fretboard when they're
Yeah.
Yngwie is a shred meister, but he's got that same ego as Richie. So, and fact is that Yngwie's a dick too.
Yes.
If
yes.
anybody, sorry Yngwie, if you see this, I just saying this is the things that we know growing up in the 80s and 90s, and you're still playing. And yes,
Yeah. I think that's also well
I'll let it
established. Yeah. Zeppelin with Physical Graffiti, Custard Pie, Cashmere, a couple stand out. Pink Floyd,
Yeah.
Wish You Were Here. I love that record. Welcome to the Machine, and then
Yeah.
Wish You Were Here, the title
Yeah.
track. Rainbow, Man on the Silver Mountain. Rush, Anthem, Bastille Day off Fly By Night, Scorpions in Trance. Again, of any of the songs on that record, I think that's the only one that's passable. Styx, I know you're a fan of Styx and the drummer.
Yeah, the drummer for sure.
Yeah, Sweet Madam Blue. And again, in 75, while I tend to want to play more metal, I get it, a lot of these are rock bands. There's a decided difference, and UFO was on here, very early UFO, which was okay. But when you listen to all these bands, and I'll throw AC/DC into it as well, there's definitely a difference between a lot of what was going on in the early to mid 70s that some may classify as hard rock that really wasn't, but the genres were not as defined and established right yet.
Right.
When you listen to a Sabbath or you listen to Zeppelin, there was that power, that force. Rush was still developing. For me personally, I'm a huge fan of Rush. The early years, I'm okay with. But yes, just as far as the sonic presence of music, the sound, Sabbath, Zeppelin, that's what metal was representing at that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I'll say Zeppelin was metal. I think that they helped establish it. Sabbath is the OG.
Yeah.
It's definitely part of what they've done and what they've established.
Yeah.
We'll hit on some of these albums in a second, Stephen, but let's just name some bands that formed in 75. Some may still be around, right? Others didn't last very long, but a lot of these will stand out. Angel, The Babies, Boston, Ian Gillan Band, who went on to be in Deep Purple and Sabbath and back to Deep Purple.
The Runaways.
Iron Maiden formed in 75. Legs Diamond, remember Legs Diamond?
The Bee Gees.
Yeah, Motorhead, starting as Bastard.
Oh, that's
Rainbow,
right.
Rainbow, Quiet Riot. Quiet Riot goes way back to 75.
And who was the original guitar player? Randy Rhoads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Riot.
Oh, yeah.
Got a fun story on Riot. There was a real quick, if I may, Stephen.
Do it.
Was it Riot or was it Raven? It was Riot. So, if I could remember their names, these are probably folks that you cross paths with, because this was all in the South Bay. So this was probably when I was 17 or so, and there was a band, which I can't remember their name now, but they had a guitarist singer who wanted to get out of being the singer. So I met through some mutual friends and a drummer, which I cannot remember his last name, but his name was Rich. And he lived Palos Verdes area. Had a really nice drum set, nice truck, nice kid. So we struck a friendship up pretty quick. And so did some practices with them, kind of a garage band, but they were opening for Riot. So the whole plan was to, hey, learn some songs, and halfway during the set, you'll come out and you'll sing the rest of the set. So at the time, and you'll love this, doing some shows as far as like a roadie for like Viking and Dark Angel, one of your favorites, I know, and all that. And so Gene and a few others showed up. Gene Hoglan, sorry, let me pick that name up. Glenn and some others showed up. It was all kind of in that extended group. And the time comes for me to go from the side of the stage, and I wish I remember his name, but this was so long ago. He looked over and just like started shaking his head. And I didn't sing because he kind of threw a fit. My My parents. That was the one and only show my parents ever went to. So I was kind of bummed,
I
very
would have been
bummed.
too.
Yeah. Kind of embarrassed, but more so just like, whatever. They finished their set, which maybe went, in, let's say, another two songs, and then they broke up on stage.
Oh
So,
shit!
so opening for Riot almost led to a riot.
I guess.
Yeah, but I looked out, and this is a place. God, again, it maybe Santa Fe Springs, maybe it was in Torrance, but it was a decent sized venue. You know, all things considered, it wasn't Fenders. I was trying to think. I go, was it ended up being Fenders? But it kind of reminded me of a Fenders in that same, not the tallest ceiling, and it went back a ways, and it would, hundreds of people were in there easily. So anyway,
Wild story.
That's my Riot connection there. So
Was it
I'll
was
bring
the
it back.
drummer Rich? Did he have blonde hair?
It was brownish, maybe brownish blonde, but it was, you know, he was, 6'1", maybe.
No, I think of a different drummer.
Yeah, because I know in South Bay how many Riches that play
Yeah.
drums. Yeah,
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 this guy I think was from New York.
yeah.
He's a phenomenal drummer from New York. Long blonde hair, kind of a good muscle build. Always without a t-shirt, playing drums, and anyhow.
Yeah,
And Saxon, by the way, formed in 1975.
they did, and that's funny. That was the next one. Started as Son of a Bitch. I think Saxon is a better choice. Yeah.
I agree.
Stars, Ted Nugent, The Runaways, Triumph.
Ted Nugent.
Love Triumph. Yeah, no comment on the other.
You didn't hear me anything.
Zebra is still going. They came back, and there's Who's Behind the Door, right? A few. That was some good rock, right? Some good solid rock. Bands that disbanded. The Alice Cooper band. Then that's when he went solo, and that's when Welcome to My Nightmare came out in '75. Coven, Elf. Dio was an elf, right? And he was an elf, so that was kind of fitting. Humble Pie, The Guess Who, and War Pig, which I don't know War Pig.
I don't either.
Some events, Motorhead parted ways with their original drummer, Lucas Fox, and he was replaced by Filthy.
Phil.
Yeah. And very, very good timing, Stephen. Just, without my rambling, that we probably would have gotten to it within 10 seconds of you mentioning Richie Blackmore. But Richie Blackmore left Deep Purple due to dissatisfaction with the band's musical direction, marking the end of the band, and consider it the Mark III era. And then Tommy Bolin replaced Richie Blackmore. And Tommy Bolin, while a phenomenal musician, was an absolute mess. And he ended up dying of alcohol and drugs at the age of 27.
The magical number.
Yeah.
Wasn't he the? I don't know what I want to say. Who is the singer that sounds the same name, but I think he got decapitated in a car accident. Is that
Mark
Tommy
Bolin.
Oh, Mark Bolin.
Yeah.
That's okay. Were they related?
I think so. I think they're brothers. Yeah. And then to stick with this again, we could do a whole, and I think we talk about this, Steve. We probably talk about more shows we should do than the shows we've done so far.
I know.
That just adds topics, again, about the, and we said this, I think, even on our last recording, age of 27. So two notable
Age of
deaths
27.
in that year. David Michael Alexander, original bassist of the Stooges, died from a pulmonary edema at the age of 27. And then Gary Mervyn Than, former Uriah Heep bassist,
Wow.
died from respiratory failure due to a heroin overdose. Yeah, that'll kill you. At the age of 27. So wild.
Yeah, the 27 Club. That could be a show, the 27 Club.
Yeah. So I think we'll do that. There's a lot to it. So let's kind of go from the deaths and some of the notable events to, we talked about some of those records at the beginning, but let's kind of go into a little bit more detail and then just jump in, Stephen, when you want. Led Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti, double album. Admittedly, I was never a big Zeppelin fan.
Me neither.
I did go through and listen to this whole record just in the last week. Some, yeah, of course, some iconic songs. Then my camera's moving again. This will be fun. Yeah, sorry guys. At least your camera's nice and stable, right? Mine's all like,
It's connected to my laptop.
yeah. So as long as your
Uh,
laptop doesn't move, yeah.
that's true. Houses of the Holy Kashmir, side three. Only a handful of songs, and the only reason why I really like Led Zeppelin was, and every drummer will say this is because of John Bonham.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a quintessential guy that created the triplets. I'm sure other drummers were doing it. I'm sure Buddy Rich did it, and nobody knew what it was. But
Right.
that guy was, and I think didn't he die at 27? That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
John
Think
Henry
so.
Bonham death. But his hard playing, back in those days in the 70s when a drummer would do a drum solo, people would get up and leave to go get beers and go to the
Hmm.
bathroom and do whatever. He was one of the first ones where people wouldn't do that. They were like, I want to see this. Granted, did it go on a little too long? Probably. But when you listen to that,
32.
oh, okay, close.
Yeah.
Still too young.
Yes.
I think he aspirated on his vomit from being too drunk, but
Yeah.
we can cut that up. We need to. But he was really the one that kind of brought back to like people want to really watch him do this drum solo, and it's kind of cool too now is because his kid does, I think it's called the Led Zeppelin Experience,
Hmm.
and Jason, when they do Moby Dick, Jason will start the drum solo, and then there's a screen behind him, and then they'll play the live version when John Bonham did it, and he will play exactly along with his dad, which is really cool to see. It's kind of
Yeah.
a fun thing to do. Uh, but but Led Zeppelin, I think really the only song that I really truly thought was the best was Rock and Roll. It had that really cool intro. It had the outro with the triplets and all that, and that was kind of like, it boogied. It was like, oh yeah, this is fun, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what led me into Led Zeppelin. And then when I heard some others, my brother was into them, and I would listen to them, and I'm like going, wow, I think I need to smoke another joint to get through this because
Yeah.
it's just. And again, this has nothing. They're a great band. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But there are songs that I do like, and again, John Bonham being that jet engine behind that band was fucking killer.
Yeah, absolutely. Many hail it as the band's greatest work,
Yeah.
Physical Graffiti.
Yep.
Pink
Yeah,
Floyd, Wish You Were Here. We talked about
such
this
a
at the stop
yeah.
at the top of the show. Um, it was, and as the Wish You Were Here, a tribute to former band member Sid Barrett,
Yep.
delves into themes of absence and the music industry. Shine On Crazy Diamond is one of them. Again, the songs I pulled up, and now I just lost my.
And I've mentioned in previous shows, I was fortunate enough to see Pink Floyd live and got to see that song live.
Yeah, that's
Roger
awesome.
Waters was not in the band, which was fine with me because David Gilmour, his voice is, there's something about his voice that is really captivating to me.
Yeah,
From,
absolutely.
from when he was young and when you hear him now, I mean, he's still touring. It peters out a little bit, but that voice there's just something about his voice. I really, really like his voice.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've always been a fan, and no, I haven't been able to see them. Uh, again, those solo tours. And which one would you say was not in the band? Roger Waters
Roger
wasn't.
Waters was not in the band.
Yeah,
This was early 80s, I want to say. Maybe
yeah,
I'd have to look on, I'd have to Google it. I think I mentioned it on previous show. But
yeah,
fun show. I mean, with the visuals and the flying pig
yeah.
and
Hmm.
the lights, and it was stellar. But the whole band, because they had a percussionist and also the drummer Nick Mason. Of course, they had chords on them, but they had glowy drumsticks, green. and they had the lights off, and it was just like, it was so wild to see. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, I want those. You know?
Yeah. No, that is cool.
Just fun visuals.
Yeah.
I don't think the marijuana had anything to do with it.
No, it just helped. So Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run.
Yes.
Again, we talked about that. And again, I have it here, so just bring it up as we talk about it. Again, and Stephen, you mentioned earlier, this album catapulted him to stardom.
Yeah.
It was really captured the essence of American youth and dreams. The title track. Wow, title track. Yeah, that truck and track. Born to Run, great song. Other tracks, Thunder Road.
Yeah.
Still, I have not seen him. I would see him live. He's in his 70s, but I've seen some video. Again, we're fans of YouTube, right? So go find it out there. He looks fantastic, and so definitely an icon beyond. I don't have this. I looked and see if I had any old Queen vinyl, and this was A Night at the Opera. This is what came out in 75, so 50 years ago. And it's as you would kind of arrive at with the title of A Night at the Opera, this is really more of an eclectic mix of rock, opera, and ballads. It does feature Bohemian Rhapsody.
Can we just go back real quick? Just back to Bruce Springsteen. I just want to pivot back.
Yeah, please.
The drummer for Bruce Springsteen, his name is Max Weinberg, and he is the father of Jay Weinberg.
Yes.
So, father and son, and everybody knows how amazing Jay is. I just wanted to throw that little. I'm sure people are like, "No, duh, Steve, we knew that." But if you didn't know,
maybe not though, right? Maybe not everyone. And obviously, there was a much discussion about Jay when he joined Slipknot, and then don't know the details of when he was let go. I'll just say that from Slipknot.
I heard it was a tempo thing.
Yeah,
it could be. It might be an excuse. Maybe they just were already after Eloy. But when I listened to Psychosocial, when Jay played it, and I haven't heard Eloy play it yet, but I kind of like the faster version. For me, it just kind of punches you in the gut.
Yeah.
The tempo version's good. Don't get me wrong, but I think Jay killed at it. But yeah, they said it was a tempo thing.
Got it. Yeah. And definitely, you put them side by side, and they're different drummers, and
absolutely, you can't compare. There's no comparison.
Yeah. I did find it funny, real quick, since you mentioned Eloy. There was a quote, a little story from Sepultura, and original guitar player still in the only original member still in the band. Said he was surprised when Eloy left Sepultura. And my first thought was, really? Well, one, because you guys already announced that you're going to, retire as a band. Mm-hmm. And then Slipknot comes to him, and he is arguably the top metal drummer in the world. So he's
phenomenal.
His status is up there. He's a known quantity, and he can go on and play for another 10 years, maybe 15 years. Who knows? Whatever Slipknot continues to do, they've already been doing it a good 20, 25 years. But
now, and I can't remember his name, the guitar player, invited the Cavalera brothers back, and I thought I heard they said they were going to do it.
Yeah, which we talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about that early on when we first did it, and the why am I drawing a blank on his name? I'll look it up. Yeah, because that's we want good information here, right, Stephen? So
yeah. Well, plus we're old, so sometimes our brains are.
Yeah, and again, and not that we have a script, but if we go off some of the talking points, then it's like, and see who can. Andres Kisser. There we go.
I found him.
I know. So who can type quicker? Yeah. So yes, if the Cavalera brothers were invited back for like the final show or maybe a couple final shows, that would be awesome. I think that would be really cool. And then what came up just earlier this week was, would there be a final Black Sabbath show?
Really?
Yeah. And the comments were, well, you have to have the original. You need Bill Ward.
Yeah.
And certainly there's much conversation about Ozzy's ability to even do that. So
he could sit in the chair.
Yeah, just sit in the big chair and
Dave Grohl
be
did
good
it.
with it.
Axl did it when they broke their legs. They sat in a chair and did concerts. It's like, who cares?
Yeah, I might break my leg if I have to keep on messing with my camera. Sorry. So,
Or break your camera.
Yeah.
Spare your leg.
Yeah. Speaking of, let's go to that record.
Back to the Rush album real quick. There's another song on there that I really like. It's called Bytor and the Snow Dog. And it's got some really, really good, the drum intro is really cool. It kind of goes into, I don't know. There's part of that album where I'm like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Harry Potter, which was like, okay, maybe it's just because it was the 70s and that's what they did in the middle of that song. But the musicianship is there's no comparison.
Oh,
to
absolutely.
Those three members of that band.
Yeah.
Rest in Neil just it was the anniversary of his death just a couple of weeks ago. And every year, I know we bounce around, but every year they do what's called Bubba Bash. His nickname was Bubba, so they have the different bands and drummers and musicians descend down, and they play Rush songs. It's really cool.
Awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah.
It's not a big, huge thing, but I think they do something similar with Led Zeppelin too. I can't remember what it's called, but they get different famous drummers to play different Led Zeppelin songs, which is really kind of cool. But anyhow, I didn't mean to totally derail what we were talking about.
No. We were doing it. And Black Sabbath.
Yes.
So yeah, more, and I got to dig around a little bit more because if there wasn't a story, it was more people just started drumming up the topic again. But we had talked about it early on our shows, right, Stephen? Hey, would Sabbath do it one more time? And again, Ozzy, he didn't perform at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I thought he might.
I thought he would too.
I do like what they ended up doing with the different musicians.
Yeah,
sometimes it's not really good. I thought it came together. Jelly Roll, that was a surprise. That was, sometimes those matchups just don't work. I thought that was kind of cool. And actually, like Mama, I'm Coming Home, right?
A little out of key on the end of it, but
but in that, I guess I would rather have you doing it live and
then lip syncing it.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you, and definitely a much deeper appreciation. And this can probably I'll just keep it this way on the positive side. I think more times than not, if you have other artists come in and do a cover and you know how the original sounded, and like for Ozzy, it's like, Ozzy's got a great voice. It's so unique. It's so
voice.
Distinct.
Yeah,
it's like,
I love
and definitely, so now I'll weave this into Sabotage. Sixth album, including the tracks Hole in the Sky and Symphony of the Universe.
Such a great song.
Definitely influenced so many bands going forward. And they were putting records out year after year after year. And let me pull this one up again. This was my Music Plus version. There definitely a lot of, discussion about what was going on with this cover, right? And somewhere could this be one of the worst covers of all time? I don't think it's that bad, Got to be careful with those pants that Bill Ward has on. Yeah, he might have a.
He's smuggling some sausage.
Yeah, and then right here in the back, it's like, all right, there they are. So again, if you really scrutinized album covers, you could find a lot of just garbage. So hey, it was 75. It was an idea. More times than not, it's a record label or manager coming up with the concept, or you don't even know what your album cover is going to look like until it's pressed and printed, right? Then you go, oh, this is the album cover. All right. So
here's one I want to, since we're talking about Ozzy / Sabbath, Ozzy put out an album called Speak of the Devil that is just completely disappeared, which I thought I think Brad Gillis played guitar.
Yeah.
Maybe Rudy Sarzo did bass. Um,
Did Tommy
Tommy
Aldridge play
Aldridge did
drums? Yep.
drums. But that album was fucking cool.
Yeah.
All those Sabbath songs and In Your Face, and you didn't need to think if it was the original members. It just killed. You can't find it. It doesn't. And I don't know if Sharon had anything to do with that. Would surprise me, but you can't find it. I used to
Yeah.
own it.
There was something, and let's see if I have that. Um, I
I think I
don't.
tried to find it, and I think it was like in Japan. I was like, I don't know. If I
Yeah, you
trust.
find it. So somewhere there probably ended up being, shocker, lawsuits, right? Um, and they're just pulled and they're not available at all. So that could have been part of it. And I believe, and we'll talk about this too. I was reading Geezer Butler's book, and I got it on Christmas, and I was done Christmas evening. I just laid back and read the whole thing. Really interesting. If you get a chance, Stephen, I don't know if you're a Kindle guy or you like to, just do the physical, but you know, it was an interesting story, just like how from Geezer's perspective, of all the interactions, and he went through every record, so that's where I got some factoids about Sabotage too. But in that, there was discussions where there was Live Evil. I want to say it was Live Evil, but I think the timing was not a coincidence, and and that Ozzy record came out. What was the title of it again? Jesus.
Speak of the Devil.
Thank you. Geez, Speak of the Devil. Yeah. I think that coincided with this Sabbath live record too, and it was done purposely by Sharon to kind of prove a point. And then somewhere down the road, there could have been some litigation that then led to it being pulled. So
It was actually in between. It was recorded in between Diary and Bark at the Moon. Diary was 81, Speak of the Devil 82, Bark at the Moon 83. And again, I know there's some story behind it, and I don't really remember all of it. But and I used to have it, and I'm like, it's like when I put that on and listened to it, like even Symptom of the Universe in that was just such a great song, such a cool song.
yeah. And let me just do that because I thought there was a tie-in.
In the UK version was called Talk of the Devil, more commonly expressed idiom there.
Yes.
But it doesn't say. I don't want to bore everybody. I'm trying to read. Anyhow, Rudy Sarzo. Yeah, there's a story on Wikipedia. I don't know how true it is. It's too long. I'm not going to read it and bore everybody.
Yeah.
If anybody ever gets, you can Google it or YouTube it, and you can hear the full album. It is really, really good. Like The Wizard, another good song. Like Tommy Aldridge's drumming on that album was just stellar. He what a fuck. I watched. I don't know if you've ever seen on Drumeo with him.
I did. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
He's a redneck. I'm now pun it, not anything bad about rednecks, but
Yeah.
he's a Southerner guy, and I always thought was he British or? But
I just kind of thought
nice
that too.
guy.
Yeah.
He seems so cool. Just a nice fun. I've seen him a couple of times playing in different bands. I think the last time I saw him was the Whitesnake opened up for the British Steel anniversary tour, which I saw up in Universal Amphitheater.
Yeah.
And I'm so mesmerized with that. Like even when I saw Priest, we were fortunate enough to get down in front and watching Scott Travis play, and those bass drums, when you can just feel it in your chest, dude, it blows me away. Same thing when we saw Gojira, it was like, oh.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. And real quick, because I knew there was a tie-in to that. So early 82, decision was made by Osbourne's management, Sharon, and record label to record a live album consisting entirely of Sabbath songs. Several factors led to the decision. Sabbath's publishing deal with their previous management had recently expired. By re-recording these songs, all the songwriters, including Osborne, would benefit from the publishing royalties. So certainly business and financial reasons.
Of course.
Additionally, Jet Records had cut a distribution deal with CBS, which saw the small label stand to make a sizable profit from the release. Business decisions aside, Black Sabbath was also readying its own live album release, and Osborne wanted his album in stores first. We were both going through our own miseries, recalls Geezer Butler. We couldn't afford not to release Live Evil, and Ozzy was forced into making Speak of the Devil. So, yeah, it was. I knew there was something tied to it, and it was more a matter of getting it out, because definitely I remember Live Evil, and I have that, and at the time I wouldn't have thought about it in this regard, but the band just hated it because it was rushed for those reasons. Even though Speak of the Devil came out, they still needed to get the product in the store, and they didn't like the producer. They didn't like the production and how everything was kind of put together. But you're kind of stuck, and that was still in the time frame of Ozzy, which led to really probably the focus that Sharon had, and her dad, who was kind of a mafia guy, really, when it came to music, Don Arden, right? And people didn't mess with him at all. There's stories if you go back and you can check that out. But in that, it was just crazy how getting those records out. So all that being said, Sabotage in 1975 has nothing to do with what we talked about in the last 10 minutes, but it's more a matter of just in that time that was kind of near the end of there's a couple more records that came out right from Black Sabbath with Ozzy in it, because that was 75. By the time 78 rolled around, he was done with them.
Yeah.
Toys in the Attic, we talked about that, right?
Real quick on that. Interesting. Again, those albums came out, and I was drumming to. They put a live album out. I think it was like Aerosmith Bootleg or something like that. And the song Walk This Way came on. But before that, there was this really cool drum intro that happened. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I learned how to play it, and I learned how to play the song. I think I was in 6th grade, 7th grade. And there was like a little talent show thing. And I brought my drum set down and played, I don't know, half-ass over some speakers. And I played To Walk This Way. I remember it vividly. But that Aerosmith has a little bit of sauce for it. Not a lot of people like. I don't like the newer stuff they did. I like that old rock and roll stuff, that Love in an Elevator, and I don't care for any of that stuff.
Yeah. And you look, and again, that's a band that I was able to see a couple times, and it was a phenomenal show. One of the shows had Guns N' Roses open for them, and it was at the Pacific Amphitheater.
Nice.
Back when they did a regular set of shows, not just the fair circuit. Which again, because they the cities like sued them and stopped them from doing regular shows. Because I remember when I was much younger, I lived on the other side of Costa Mesa. So if you know the city, where that's right off of Brookhurst, maybe, and this may mean nothing to anybody listening, but if you know the streets over by, you could go a couple miles away, even further, and on a summer evening, you could hear it for miles.
Oh, I bet.
It was so loud, and then being just miles away, you had it. Here I go again with my camera.
Here I go again on my own.
But yeah, Toys in the Attic. Phenomenal song, Sweet Emotion, Walk This Way, and kind of forget that those were all on the same record, right? Because in that, it's like those could be three of the top 50, maybe, but definitely like top 100 rock songs of all time, right? You could fit those in there, and one of the songs, and not to be a contrarian, that I picked out is No More, No More. I really like that song.
Great song.
Yeah. So in that, and that's kind of, the deeper track, as they say, but it just, I agree. Their resurgence, again, they had a lot of inner turmoil in their band, and when they made their kind of big comeback, right, it was Pump and other records that came out probably in the late '80s that then kind of pushed them into a whole other stratosphere. That I didn't see them until I saw them on that tour, like '80, yeah, probably in '88 on the I think it was Pump, right? Um,
Yeah.
and that's when Guns N' Roses opened for them. The other show may have been maybe Dokken played with them. That's possible.
I don't know if
Uh,
I've ever saw Dokken live. You ever see Dokken live?
yeah, a couple times. Yeah,
His voice was pretty good back then.
yeah. And again, we're not talking about Dokken. Maybe sometime we would, but Alone Again. There's a lot of songs that I really like, but Alone Again is awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking at that Aerosmith live bootleg album, and basically they did most of the songs off that
Yeah,
album live, which is it's kind of a sloppy live album, which I kind of like because it's like raw. Oh yeah, let's go right into it.
yeah.
Screw
Sloppy
Aerosmith.
Live. Yeah. So
Speaking
you
of
know,
sloppy live,
you wanted the best, you got the best. Kiss. So
yeah,
Kiss Alive. 1975, double live album capturing the raw energy of Kiss. Crucial in elevating the band's popularity, right? So many, obviously live record, but the live tracks got so much play, Rock and Roll All Night, and it really kind of defined the sound of 75. And for them, during this time, they were still coming together. There was, we talk about Rush. Rush was opening for them on a number of
mm-hmm,
dates
yep.
once Rush made their way into the United States. But they were big time, yeah. And it just, again, not a big Kiss fan in general, but then you kind of the nostalgia breaks in and you go back to it. Like again, there's double albums are real quick. The tracks. How many of these? And it's a live record, so it's a culmination of a couple, studio releases. But Deuce, Strutter. I'm going to skip some of these that I don't recognize. Hotter Than Hell, Parasite. Anthrax did a cover of Parasite.
Great
I
version.
didn't know it was Kiss until I heard Anthrax, and then I dug into it, and I go, well, let me go listen to the original. It's like, all right, Black Diamond, Rock Bottom, Cold Gin, Rock and Roll All Night. Yeah, come on.
100,000 Years, Black Diamond. There's another one that's a fun one. It's called Nothing to Lose, which is Peter Criss sings it. And
Okay, yeah.
it's kind of fun talking about the back door. But that album again, that's when I started playing drums. So it was Aerosmith, it was Kiss, it was Rush, and those were kind of the three bands that just kind of catapulted me into just keep pushing it, keep pushing it, keep pushing it. And the Kiss songs are simple to play because it's nothing. The Rush songs, difficult,
right? Yeah,
the Aerosmith songs, simple, but that album pushed them, like you said, over the edge because their first three albums they didn't sell shit, and once this album came out, it just lit their world on fire.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of live, let's go into some live, some tour highlights. We'll start with Zeppelin and Physical Graffiti. 1975 North American tour kind of marked the band's peak, right, as far as the stage setup, and they had record-breaking attendance figures. One of the more notable performances was a sold-out 5-night residency at London's Earl's Court.
Oh, interesting.
Showcased again, Kashmir trampled underfoot, trampled under mouth. Some concerts were delayed due to ticket scalping issues, and really then that led to a major shift in how events handle ticket sales going forward. So you think part of it, up until this point, sure, there'd be artists and people would play, arenas and stadiums. Even you go back into the '60s, right? And there's big, massive shows. But at some point, people want to game the system. So that was kind of the the first noted example of scalping really becoming an issue. And
But
then
I remember back when we were going to concerts in the '80s, and there were scalpers outside.
oh yeah,
It was like,
just stand with fanning the tickets out, just standing there.
yeah,
It's
yeah, they make a couple extra bucks off of it, but
yeah.
nowadays you can't. There's really no paper. It's just it's on your phone.
Yeah. And if it still works that way, it's just that's why everything gets pushed to the secondary sites and it jacks all the prices up, right?
Yeah,
So some are set high already, and we've discussed that in past shows. But you then go to the secondary market. It's like, all right, well, I couldn't even get the original ticket, at the pre-sale for $100 or $150, but now I'm secondary, it's $800.
one of the things I like about excuse me about Iron Maiden, when their tickets go on sale, usually, and I belong to their fan club, so I get the notice and I can buy it through them. But they're always like $150 a ticket, which is it's expensive, but it's not $400 or $300 per ticket. Like it's absurd.
No, for sure. Absolutely. And back then, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure we could pull it up where it's like, oh, yeah, these are $8, or $10
or 20,
maybe
whatever.
$6. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just wild. And I remember like even, looking back at some of the ticket stubs that I still have, like early, like, an 84 Judas Priest, it was like $15
So cool.
with a service charge that took it up to 90. No, it was $15 with like a 250 surcharge on it. It's like, all right, yeah, you could go to a show for 20, or under 20. You could buy a t-shirt for $20. And we weren't drinking yet.
Nope.
At 14, that was good. That was probably, advisable not to do that. So, you just hung out and enjoyed it. And relatively speaking, you could do it with saving your allowance over a couple weeks.
And just to back up a little bit, I got to see Deep Purple live too. Anyhow.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Boom.
I'm trying to think, did I see them when they came back in 84 with Perfect Strangers? And again,
that's the tour I saw.
We'll do like an 84 show, and I probably did. I can't remember. I was still doing my little journal, which I have to find. It's got to be somewhere. But I really like that record. I remember getting it for Christmas. But we'll talk about 84 and 84. Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. Again, toured North America and Europe in 75. Played, that most tracks off that record along with the earlier works. They've always been known for the beyond reasonable, beyond the stage show, right? A lot of lights. You saw them live. I was unfortunate never to see them, but they really kind of were innovative, right? They kind of forged ahead with this big, massive stage setup. Again, playing Long Beach, Los Angeles Sports Arena, which is now a soccer stadium built over it. But saw many shows back there as long with you saw them as well, Stephen. At Lundy's Wembley Stadium. And again, we mentioned his name already. We'll mention it again. Roger Waters publicly expressed dissatisfaction with larger venues, which inspired themes in their next album, Animals. So he's always been, of strong opinion. And that's probably one of the reasons why they stopped playing together. So, amongst many other things. Bruce Springsteen, just from a concert and tour standpoint, the Born to Run tour in 75 introduced the E Street Band.
I remember that video on MTV.
And how's this? So in 75, again, that's what kind of catapulted him. But he started in October of 75. He was doing shows at the Roxy.
Wow.
We played the Roxy. It's just a marvel when you think back, and it's like the artists that have played on those same stages.
Yeah.
And you go, wait, I stood exactly where Bruce Springsteen did.
Right.
David Lee Roth. It's like,
right.
Okay, that's something else.
That was kind of one of the things I always thought about at the clubs I played in Hollywood. It was like, oh my God, so and so played right here. I'm, kind of fun.
It's wild. It's like, hey, at this, this is a snapshot of right now with me, when you're like 17, 18, 19, 20 years ago, who's now an icon was doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
Very
And
cool.
yeah, and in that, even, from it doesn't matter to anybody but me, and I'll say it, you'll appreciate it, Stephen, but, from 75 playing at the Roxy with, Bruce Springsteen, 13 years later, I was standing on the Roxy
Right.
stage just 13 years later. Who knew?
Yep. The whiskey,
Yeah, all those.
Kazari's.
Yeah, Coconut Teaser,
Yep.
Club Lingerie.
Troubadour.
Yeah.
Fun.
Queen Night at the Opera. Again, we talked about that, tour, 75 to 76 world tour. That's when they first performed Bohemian Rhapsody live. Shows in the UK, North America, Japan. Notable performances at London's Hammersmith Odeon. And again, maybe influenced a little bit with what Pink Floyd was doing, advanced lighting and costumes, and really kind of set a new standard for the live performance. So now, like, you're going beyond just, guys on a stage, which
Right.
still some do it now. It's like you not for nothing, but Grateful Dead, I don't think were ever heralded for their stage show. They just stood there, and jammed.
And
But
jam.
now it was developing, right? Now it was developing further to really make it like an art, with the sound and the lights and all that. Again, challenges of that tour: Freddie Mercury's vocal demands and the technical challenges with recreating Bohemian Rhapsody live. Sure, the way it was recorded, and they layered all the vocals and just
Yeah.
all the different nuances in that. It's something else.
Still, the versions I've seen live are really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. Sabotage. We'll do a couple more of these. 75, 76 tour. Obviously focusing on songs from that record, but also continuing to play classics like Iron Man, notable performances in North America and UK. And again, here they go. Now their stage show is continuing to kind of evolve, dramatic effects, pyrotechnics, which for metal bands were rare at the time. So again,
Right.
not only did they forge ahead with this new type of music, right, and have been doing it, this was their sixth record they put out in 5 years. They were playing all the time. Again, back to that Geezer Butler book, which is Into the Void. Geezer Butler. It's right there. They were doing, early on before they were signed, so just 5 years prior, sometimes 8 hours a day they were playing.
Wow.
Because they would get hired and not make hardly anything. At least they got some, as well as some beer. Which if they got paid in beer and it was endless supply, they probably would have closed a bar. But it was they logged, like, you talk about 10,000 hours. If you focus, that's when you can kind of master, like if you're playing drums at 10,000 hours, once you get to that point, if I'm saying 10,000 hours, at that point, you've gotten to, a level, right, where you have developed this skill. They probably did that fairly quickly, considering all those shows and practices they did. And again, not surprising, in this tour, they faced a lot of internal tensions and fatigue, which began to affect their live performances. Yeah.
I'd be willing to bet though that when like all the Kiss probably was maybe one of the first bands that had pyro. And once they did that, I'm sure a lot of other bands were like, "Going, wait a minute, look what they're doing. Let's incorporate some of this into what we're doing," because a stage show is cool.
Absolutely.
It's like,
Yeah.
even when you go see Iron Maiden, every song has a different set. The backdrop, whatever. To incorporate lights and fire and explosions and all that. Some bands don't need it, but it is kind of a fun. When you think back to, wow, when I was a kid, I wasn't expecting the stage to explode, and you're like, dude, it scared the crap out of us. But,
Yeah, exactly.
But I bet you they were the pioneers of that.
Well, yeah, the next one I'm going to hit on, Kiss Alive. The Alive tour showcased larger-than-life performances. Again, their image. probably one of the better crafted, put together images of all time, right? Especially like, going back in the day. Just you look at that. It's like it was, beyond anything that you would have seen, in the 70s and in 75. And this is a couple records in, but it's like it truly is like, are these guys untouchable, right? I'm not going to see these guys walking down the street. I'm not going to see them at the
No,
grocery store.
no.
It's like, like Gene Simmons, if anything, I think is probably the most dynamic rock star, just with his whole persona, like of all
Mm-hmm.
time, right? Now, we'll get to talking about, in the same year, Alice Cooper. Were many bands influenced by Alice Cooper with the makeup
Yes.
and all that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it seems what you're saying, I agree completely, Stephen. At some point where it was okay just to stand on stage, maybe have a stool and pluck the guitar and just sing, and everybody was kumbaya. Where now this was a performance, right? And people
Right.
were raising the game, and then it became, pyrotechnics, going old school 50 years ago with, flash bombs, and I'm sure things just sometimes exploded that weren't intended to explode, right?
Probably.
It's evolved, blood spitting, which in the
And
later
the
years,
fire thing, and
yeah, the costumes, it elevated, and I didn't see any in the 70s. I saw Kiss first when they were unmasked during, what was that, maybe 88, 89, Animalize.
yeah,
And that was Kiss and Loudness at the Forum. Um,
they're a
and
great
then
band.
When Kiss went back to their makeup, I saw them in Anaheim at the Pond. I think it was called that at the time. I'm not sure what the name is now.
When they were
Arrowhead
reunited with
Pond.
the makeup, I saw them at Irvine.
Yeah. And actually, I think I saw that too. So anyway, it was, it was an event, right? It was a show.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely. Not the greatest musicians in the world, but it was again, it's a show. It's like a carnival. It's a circus.
yeah.
It's the visuals, and like they pioneered a really cool thing. A lot of people hate that band. I personally, they were one of my favorite bands as they got their music changed. I saw them back in 1976 or
Yeah, that's
77
awesome.
for the
Yeah,
Alive tour.
yeah,
Alive 2. Yeah.
that is right there. See, look. So, Stephen, where are you? Where are you?
I wasn't at that
where are
one.
you at? Yeah.
That's the first one. I went to the second one.
Yeah, yeah.
I was
Kiss
right
Alive
behind
too.
those two girls.
Oh, there we
holding
go.
fists
Yeah.
up. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
there, right there.
yeah.
Where are you
Little
at?
kid.
Yeah.
The Kiss Alive 2 was Cheap Trick opened up for them.
Okay.
Believe it or not. So that was
Yeah.
kind of cool.
No, that is. So, in these bands, we talked about, again, the significance, and, are all these bands still around? No. And obviously, 50 years after, not necessarily their debut release, right? A few albums in, it's pretty incredible, just the staying power. So some of these are not shocking at all, but let's run through kind of the overall record sales, just of their whole catalog. Right. So Led Zeppelin, and you want to play the guessing game? You want to see if you can?
Sure.
Yeah.
Total record sales
Yeah.
of all of them?
Yeah. How about total record sales? And so how about this? Because it would be foolish for you to say a number without me giving you a band. So Led Zeppelin. So overall record sales, and then what was their top selling record?
Oh, God. I would say maybe 30 million records. And I don't know what their top one would be. It might have been, I don't know.
Yeah. So
Again, I'm not such a huge Led Zeppelin fan, so I wouldn't.
yeah, no, for sure. So we'll edit this out because I don't want to set you up. And so, Steven, say a number, and you go 19, 27, and then we'll play bingo at the end, right? But so you said 30, times that by 10.
No shit.
So 300 million records
Makes
worldwide.
sense.
Led Zeppelin 4, released in 1971. And I'm putting it out there so you guys, if you want to fact check us, yes, I understand that different sites publish different counts As far as actual record sales, this is done as a demonstrative purpose for entertainment. Actual figures may vary. I don't think we're that far off, but again, if we are, just tell us. Anyway, 300 million worldwide for Led Zeppelin. How was that little disclaimer? Led Zeppelin 4, released in 71, 37 million. Pink Floyd, 250 worldwide. Dark Side of the Moon, 45 million. The Wall, 30 million.
Wow.
Bruce Springsteen, 150 million worldwide. Born in the USA, released in 1984. With Courtney Cox jumping up on stage before she was in
Yep.
Friends. More than 30 million.
Doing the 80s dance?
Yeah, worldwide. Absolutely, yeah. Queen, over 300 million
Makes
worldwide.
sense.
Highlights from 1975, A Night at the Opera, Bohemian Rhapsody. Black Sabbath. This number's a little lower than I would have thought. 70 million. Still nothing, Paranoid account for a substantial portion of their sales. Aerosmith, over 150 million. Toys in the Attic, 8 million in the US alone. Kiss, 100 million records with.
And they've put out 44 albums.
Yes. So
That's insane.
so they could have put out 100 records and, or 200 records, and if they all sold 500,000, you can get
Right.
to 200 million. So they put out a boatload. So they individually, were they huge record, have huge record sales? No. But again, you hit 100 million, I don't care how many records you put out, that's still,
That's a pretty big figure.
yeah. But those were kind of some of the main highlights on that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Again, let's revisit that screenshot from the beginning, because again, I want to say purposely we didn't mention some bands any further than just putting this on this list. But I'm going to kind of and with your text, it was like I was actually looking, like I would be looking at my text, right, Stephen? And then you finally just had to tell me my camera was wacky. So thank you for at least wanting to do it on the download. Yeah, I commit to getting that little technical thing worked out, because you have no problems. I have plenty of them. Yeah.
They have little cameras that you can get that have like a little rest on the back, and they just set and they don't fall.
Well, yeah, it's funny because this one has that little rest, and it just wants to.
Falls.
Yeah, it likes to it gets limp.
Hey, it's live. What do you
Yeah,
expect?
it's limp. So yes, that will be worked out. Again, we didn't really have much to say, and neither right or wrong. REO Speedwagon, again, 50 years old. This time we mean it. We don't mean it because we're not going to give any time to talk about it.
No.
Alice Cooper, again, Welcome to My Nightmare. That's a classic song for sure. I've seen Alice Cooper a couple times. Definitely a showman. The last time I saw him was Long Beach Arena. So this was an interesting lineup. Tesla opened, and then Megadeth in direct support, then Alice Cooper. And
Interesting.
I was like right there, like a couple rows back, let's just say second or third row, just kind of happened that way. And yeah, it was a fun show, and he had the full stage show going with the blood and, and cutting people's heads off. And, you see something up close. And I didn't know who this, I knew the name, right? But I didn't know, he went back into the 70s, until later, and kind of did some research. It's like, okay, yeah, he was kind of the godfather to definitely the whole, shock and awe scene, and definitely influenced
King Diamond.
Absolutely. From a theatrical standpoint. So it's like, all right, yeah, props to you.
Yeah.
Again, Rush, Fly By Night, good songs for sure. That was their continued kind of growth and development as they were working through and just kind of finding their own space, which has been fully documented. And there was a quote I saw earlier today, a post, Neil Peart, basically, and I'll paraphrase, was because there's been some talk, would they ever get back together, with the different drummer, whoever that could be. Could it be, Kerry from Tool, or Dave Grohl, or anybody? And I love what he had to say. And basically, we're good being done, because I don't want to be known as a cover band, or a tribute
Exactly.
band. And it's like props. And again, there's nothing they need to do for money or any of that. In a way, I'd love to hear those live, but I can go back and see plenty of videos, right?
Yeah,
I can go
exactly.
back and, their live records, All the World's a Stage, and others are fantastic.
Exit
So,
stage left.
yeah, Exit Stage Left. So there's, all that. I think I named a proper album, right? And then there's another one too. Anyway,
Yeah, January 7th, 2020 was his demise. So it's been 5 years, which is really odd.
it is. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, moving forward. What's the other band we didn't talk about?
Well, we didn't talk about Scorpions
Right.
other than In Trance. And there was one song, and I had to kind of dig deep. And I mentioned earlier, if you listen at the top of the show, everybody, as we reach almost the at the end of yet another show, episode 37, In Trance, the title track. I'll be playing that in a couple weeks on my 1975 show. Kind of a stretch, right? That I kind of I didn't have to pull it in. I can pick whatever song I want, but it's like, all right, well, that's it. There's not much. And I remember, and I will not give publicly, I don't want to get in trouble, give credit to who said this, but basically the comment I received one time driving around, this may give it away, Stephen, so don't comment. Driving around and flipping around on Sirius, and maybe ending up on Ozzy's Boneyard, or maybe Hair Nation, and Scorpion starts, and the comment is made, I have zero interest in listening to the Scorpions. Yeah. And
Hey,
it's some of it, I'm right there. And it's like, do I like Blackout? Yeah, that like whole record, but the song Blackout and Worldwide Live, I remember getting that. That was probably the first Scorpions record I bought. And again, this is when I was like, 12 or 13, I think. But yeah, overall, it's like, they've been around 60 years, right, from when
yeah.
they first started. And they're doing the residency in Vegas. I remember bringing it up too, saying, hey, do you want to go to Vegas? He says, again, I have zero interest there. I won't give any more hints because it'll be obvious who is giving the feedback. But I'll just say it's me looking in the mirror, commenting
If
on.
somebody paid for a trip to Vegas for me and gave me free tickets, I'd go.
Yes, yeah. If it was paid for and tickets were handed to me,
I'd go.
or if you go to Planet Hollywood Live, you could just walk into the VIP ADA entrance and they wouldn't even check your ticket. So
That's right. Like you did.
there's a Vegas concert hack if you want to try that, because it worked for Judas Priest for half of the crew that went with us.
That's
Anyway,
awesome.
anything else, Stephen, you want to add for 75?
Nope. I was
Yeah.
8 years old,
Yeah, I was 5.
and I was
Yeah.
just starting to play drums. So
There you go.
well, the handful of these bands were my influence. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
kind of molded me to what I am today.
No, and that's true. Yeah, the again, the power of music, it leaves that impression. When we get in, and maybe we'll do like a few different years. I think that'd be kind of fun to dig into.
Sure.
I think 78, 80, 81 might have, definitely a lot to talk about for me. And that impression that it set, with like the 81 with Van Halen and Fair Warning, as I look at it on the wall. Yeah.
Van Halen 2.
Yeah, that again, I like all those, but yeah, I remember you said before that was your big record.
That was my big record.
From Van Halen. So guys, as always, we appreciate you coming back again. This is our first episode of 2025.
How about that?
If this is the first time you are checking us out, well, thank you for checking us out.
Yeah.
Right, go back. On Spotify, we have 36 episodes before this one. And on YouTube, there's plenty of episodes. There's shorts. There's reels on Instagram. I guess TikTok goes away on Sunday, so
Yeah, so that's going to go that way. We have to get on what is the new one? Redline or
Redbook,
RedTube, or I don't know.
Yeah. So we might get a whole new audience by doing that, right?
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and set it up. But as always, if you're interested in any merchandise, you can go over to 99WNRR.com. In time, maybe this year, we'll also maybe spin off just a talkingshh.com, and you can just go to it and find
That'd be
merchandise.
fun.
But for now, you can find it on that station page. If you want to send us, fan mail? No, you want to send us an email, talkingshh@gmail.com. Make
4
sure
H's.
4H. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. So talking, as it's spelled, 4 H's show, all one word, at gmail.com. And again, if you have any comments on the show, you can share it there. If you
Suggestions.
suggestions, anything, take it. We're also going to be working through, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it in our show on this one, Stephen, before we leave with our sponsor, and we'll add some more in this year as well. We got a few things that we're working on, but Wheely Q Barbecue, WHEELYQ.com. You can go out there and you can get some barbecue sauce. You can get some rub, salt and pepper, garlic, seasoning, anchovies, espresso seasoning. I just heard a cat. Yeah.
That was mine by my feet.
If you go out to a TSP, God, Jesus. I'll make it through, Stephen. I thought I was going to make it all the way through. Me and my early morning wake-ups. But WheelyQ.com, WHEELYQ.com. That's WHEELYQ.com. You'll see all the products. They got some merchandise out there as well. I know, Stephen, you mentioned before the holidays we're going to get some merch and some maybe little gift packs and all that. So hit us up on any of the socials or on Gmail, and we'll do some drawings and want to promote it. Again, if you got to their site, you just plug in the code TSP20. That's TSP20 at checkout. You can get 20% off. So all this goes towards it's a family-run business supporting spinal muscular atrophy (SMA) and the challenges that Colin has had. Again, it's a great product for a great cause, good people. So help them out, and we appreciate it. And
absolutely,
we're just doing it. So we're going to keep going this year. We'll throw out as much content as we can. We got a whole bunch of different topics, Stephen, prepared, right? So we will pick a topic and then talk about 10 other things unrelated to that topic, and then pull it back in at the end.
Podcasting.
And just say, hey, you know what? Again, we talked about albums that came out 50 years ago this year, 1975 to the year today. Today now is 2025. Yeah. 50 years. Do the math right there. Count how many fingers and toes you have. But it's remarkable, just, the lasting impression and power that music has. So again, we love music. We will eventually get to movies. We're going to do that. We're tempting it. I know you guys are getting pissed at us, right? But we will talk about movies. Maybe we'll talk about recipes, right, Steve? No, I don't know. Anyway,
good.
As always, appreciate you, Stephen. Thanks for always making the time.
Quick, let me make a quick plug. If you guys make it to the end, hopefully you do. I need to start doing this in the beginning. Scott does a radio show on Tuesdays. It's called No Consideration. It's on 99WNRR.com. I know you're 2 hours ahead of us.
I'm in Central. Yeah.
You're Central time. So it starts usually about I don't know the time.
4
on Tuesday.
Pacific, 6
4
Central,
Pacific.
7 on the East. Yeah.
Check it out. It's a great show because
Thank you.
every week it's different music. Last week was Jeff Tate's 66th birthday.
66. Yeah.
And so the whole show is dedicated to Jeff and Queensryche, which was really cool. So there's specials like that. You know, there's a segment that he does on normal shows called the Triple Thrashback, where he plays some 80s, 80s song. And sometimes it's more than that, but it's a great show. It's got different types of music. It's got hardcore, death metal, whatever you want to call it. It's fun. It's a couple hours long. Do yourself a favor and check it out. It's at 99WNRR.com, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time. There we go.
Yeah, you get no. Wow, I couldn't have done that any better. So thank you, Stephen. So
absolutely.
Yeah, again, you know, we love music, and we're going to continue talking about it until we can't, right? Until someone kicks us off. But you know, for now, we push the buttons, we put it out there, and again, we hope you guys enjoy it. So as always,
absolutely.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Again, leave comments, let us know, subscribe and share. You know, we want to continue to get those subscriber counts up there. That really matters.
Quick, we keep getting plugged by a YouTube channel. Her name is Sarah. It's Fantastic Publishing.
Okay.
And every time that I go on, when she does a live, they always post our channel for people. And, you know, she doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of people, but everybody's like, oh, we just subscribe. So
yeah,
I'm getting us out there in a different manner through this little group that I belong to. So if you guys can share, that would be cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every little bit helps. So
thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So until next time, Stephen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Take care. Be
too.
Good. And see ya. Thanks again for tuning in to the show. We'll be back every week with a brand new episode. Make sure you check us out on Instagram at Talking Show, and also listen on Spotify or wherever you can stream a podcast. See ya.